Before we start, I just wanted to say my apologies for the mic being so loud. I had no idea I had such a lovely voice to make it resonate throughout my room and cause the mic to go apeshit. So yeah, just ignore it, sound quality. Try and enjoy this tutorial. Okay, thanks guys, bye. Alright, let's try this again. Second frickin' time having to record this. Okay, first off, Michael, stop fucking asking me for tutorials. Start watching YouTube, for fuck's sakes, please. Thank you. Just kidding. Okay, so, first thing I want to talk about here is the lights for this tutorial. I basically use, oh, it's going to be painful having to do this again, 20 minutes before, another 20 minutes to explain this again. So, I use planes as, with the NWD here, extruding out, as the overall light source, basically just to brighten up whatever you're doing, your back and front, whatever. Then I use the left, right, and middle actual lights. I added shadow lights here. So all you gotta do to go shadow is you go into your light. When you produce a light, make a light, you go over to shadow, shadow map soft. That'll create your light. So that's the basic light room. All you gotta do for the planes when you're playing around with them, if you ever get to that, you create a new material. Here, hold on, and then when there's color, you take off specular, you take off color, you go luminance, you increase that bad boy up to about 120, up to you, doesn't matter. Drag it onto the plane, should be all good to go. Now let's start with doing text here. So I have a camera already set up here, so I don't have to reposition my stuff when I'm modeling and stuff, so it gets really annoying. So let's go, when you're creating text, people like to go motext. I can't do that because I will screw over my plugins eventually. I go into your splines, you go text, you go into your extrude NWDs, you drag that text into the NWDs. Will create the 3D you're looking for. You can change the text. I'm going to toe, as in tutorial. I'm going to my Vara font, because that's the fattest one, why not, right? It's like a Devil Breeze font, but kind of cleaner. You go your extrude NWDs, you can make it really long or whatever, you can make it really skinny. It's just basically your depth. I go 80 personally. You could add caps onto it, start and end. Oh my god, that would be a fillet cap. That just makes it a thicker edge or whatever. I don't do that anymore because this is what I used to do before I found out about atom array, which is common sense. So this will answer Michael Platinum Storm's question for first here. You want to duplicate the first NWD, you open up the atom array here, you drag the NWD into the atom array, it'll create the atom array, obviously, as its name, and you want to equal out the sphere and the cylinder radiuses, so it's just flat, kind of lined up border, I guess you can say, around the text. Just gives it that crisp color. You can add color, you can make it just an outline, right? Simple enough. Let's do that. For instance, when you're adding materials, what I like to do for projection, when you first throw on your material, you'll see that it's UVW mapping. I usually go cubic, just because when you have something, let's say, let's go this material here, you have something, it doesn't work, it's only going to work on the sides for things that are rounded or have sides on it. It's more of a flattened image kind of thing, and it looks really choppy, so it doesn't even work if you have this texture. So I go to the cubic because it covers it all, no matter what. It covers each side to its 100% length by 100% length. So length and width, basically, it'll work out best. This one is a bad example because the texture is really small, but it's what you should be using if you're trying to texture a material and throw it onto a text or model. So that's the basic atom array, for instance. Now, Michael Gallimore, you were asking about the exploding kind of effect. I'm hoping that's what you were after. Let me get to that. So it's a plugin I have here that's called Throwsy, which is just it basically fragments all of the NURB into the X amount of fragments you want from the text itself. So let's duplicate that. You always want to duplicate things, just because plugins, if you screw up or something, you could always just regain what you lost or whatever really easily, because you'll have it backed up, right? Or in this case, you can use Throwsy, because then Throwsy will make it look way too exploded and choppy. So if you want to kind of use that as an outline or use it in a cleaner sense. So when you go Throwsy, you go from random. I use Voronoi because it makes it seems cleaner of a cut. I use clear edge and center because it'll the spline offset. Obviously, you don't want it on the sides because that just looks stupid. Pieces, I go 35, for instance. There's 4 text models it's going to break it up into. So let's go 35 pieces each, so it's not too small of cuts, not too big, but it will go from the front to the back. So keep that in mind. It's not just in the front that you're going to see it. So realistically, it's going to slice it up into about 12 pieces on the front that you can see. Break now, it's going to break it. Now we're going to have to delete all the materials once it's done breaking. So we'll do that in a second, because I didn't throw material on prior to me breaking. So it's just going to render it all, or break it all into its original cutout material, which is just a gray. It's not a big deal. So we'll leave this to render like this. Okay, so it's done. Now you have your 4 text here. See all the fragments? That's basically what it's going to do. It's going to fragment it into the explosion, pretentious kind of thing. So let's check mark all these, make them editable. This is the second time I freaking done that. So now you want to check, or minus these off, plus these off, I guess you can say, just to get in the materials. So let's delete all the materials. It doesn't really matter that you delete this. You're not going to play around with that. Let's do that. You delete all the materials, then you can throw your own materials on there. So let's close all that, whatever. Oh, let's see, something basic. Let's do this. So always do the cubic, like I said. Cubic, there we go. You group all these, make sure they're all selected. So when you go into the MoGraph effector, you could go random effector that does your X, Y, and Z in random centimeters, basically. So it increases and decreases where it's being randomly moved to X, Y, and Z pattern, obviously, right? That's just how it works. You can increase and decrease the strength. That's how you get the exploded kind of effect. So for instance, you want to group all these just to make it easier to use Alt-G or right-click group objects. You're going into this view so you can move it. I usually go 30, and you can make it a tighter or looser explosion. So let's go about 50 for instance, just simple. They're already textured, so I'm just going to drag that down onto that. So let's do that. Let's increase the size, for instance, so you can see it. So render that out. It's going to look half-assed decent, not bad, quick. It'll be really, really nice for those who are just starting. It is really clean technique. You could layer it even farther back so it looks like it's a deeper explosion, so it makes it look like it's made out of rock, whatever you want. For instance, it could be simple as that, or if you could even go like this, you do that, you duplicate the exploded one, you can drag it 30 farther to the front, you can decrease the random effector, and then it'll look more cracked, like so. 9 minutes 30 seconds in, oh my god. Only a few more things. We're almost done this. I still have to answer one more question. So for instance, that Drowsy is an awesome plugin. You might want to get it if you're truly into doing all this kind of thing. I see as the atom array is there, it is a lot easier to see what your text says opposed to having nothing there. You're not going to read it. So it's awesome to have that border, like I said, when you were modeling or something. Okay, so that's that. When you're doing your render settings, so you click on this. I use output of that by that, 1280 by 720. I use 1980 by 1080 when I do my cover arts and stuff like that. I believe the film aspect ratios and rates are the same, so don't play around with that. I use a resolution of 300, so I use the PPI in Photoshop at 300. Save as a format of PNG. They are the best quality. Alpha channel, so there is no black background when you render something. Saves you a lot of time from having to pen tool or magic wand it out. So multi-pass image, I believe, is already okay. When you're anti-aliasing, basically, alias, whatever it is, when you go, it's usually geometry. You want to go best, 1 by 1, 2 by 2. I think the threshold's at 12% originally in all this. So you can copy this all down if you really want it. Options should be the same. Now you're getting to your effects. So all this I added on. Ambient occlusion should just be under the effect tab. You click it. I believe I played around with these a little bit. They may be stock, I don't recall. Same with the object glow. This all just gives it the depth and shadow depth that you really want in a model or text. Just gives it more of a 3D look. And then the glow illumination, same thing. That'll help with the lighting and capture everything on the model a lot better. It'll just work with the lights better. Cell render, I used to use a lot. It's basically making it into a blueprint. You don't have to use it. How it works, it grabs all the edges of the splines that are in the text or the model or whatever, will color it white, and everything else other than the splines will be black. It's really neat. It makes it like a blueprint kind of thing, but I don't use it. I wouldn't use it in my Photoshop or anything, so that's my basic render. Let's move on to the shapes for modeling. For example, Michael Platinum Storm's question. So I use oil. Oh god, I can't talk anymore. The oil tank. This is an hour and a half of me talking. So you can make it more of a sphere, or you can make it flat on the top. I usually keep it flat, just easier to play with. You can make it short and wide, or very skinny and tall. I kind of keep it in more of a squarish pattern for where the segments are. You can change the segment amount, so you can have a lot or not very much. I usually keep it stock or the original. Big deal, it doesn't really matter, it's what you want. So when you want to model something, this is where this comes in handy. You want to go to the sphere where there's no segments and there's the segment mode. You click on that, it'll make it so it's editable. I said it right this time. So then you can actually edit things. So you go over to this tab here. This will make it so you can select each segment. You can select them manually, hold shift, you can select multiple ones, big deal, whatever you want. For instance, I like to use the U hotkey, keys U and B for ring selection. That'll select vertical or horizontally all the way around the object, for the most part. For instance, I want to do this, and this, for just a quick example. You right click. You can get all these options. You can bevel it, which is just basically a soft extrusion, or you can use an extrude, which I like to use. It just makes it a lot more technical looking. Inner extrusion, which just basically makes it a smaller selection, and you can move it out or in or out or whatever you want. The matrix extrusion is basically what makes it look sharp. it moves it outwards and it shrinks it slowly through its steps. For instance, these things. So you can make it really sharp or really dull. It can be useful. I don't play around with it too much, just too much to look at. It's very unclean in my opinion. You can always just use the original movement tools. As you can see, you can move it around, in, up and down, whatever you really prefer. Move it out, and that's where it gets very difficult when you're modeling. Like the robot one I did for Far Too Loud took 16 hours to do, just because I was doing all this manually. It took me forever to do. So let's do this now. For instance, let's say you want to do this. This is just basically what I just taught you. Each time you let go when you're extruding, it'll create a new segment. Let's extrude those out. Extrude those out. Let's move this up. And let's move this segment here. Let's make it big, but no. Let's rotate it about 45 degrees so it's flat. And you can move it back. Whatever. You can do whatever you want. That's how you model. It takes a long time. There's not very much easier ways to do it. You could do bowling and stuff, which is this, but that's way too complex for now. So that's the basic one there. This is 16 minutes, good lord almighty. Okay, so let's do that real quick. So let's say you want to model a word or something. Let's go Y like I did before. Via font this again. Via font in bold. So this one's the fatter one. Why not do that? You always select it back to the movement tool, or else if you kept it on that, it's not going to really work well when you're trying to move it. Oh, let's go back. Half the time it doesn't actually move around if you've been playing around with it. So what you want to do, let's make that a little bigger. Let's make this via font. Frig's sakes, this is taking too long. Bold, let's go. Let's make it a little deeper so we could do our modeling in easier capability. So same thing. If there's multiple things, you right click, you can go select children, make editable, or you can just press the sphere thing, which makes it editable anyway. You go to your cap 1, there's your cap 2, which is the back. Cap 1 is what you want. You click on the squared segment selector again. It'll allow you to select that. So what I do, I go knife. You could split it up into your own custom segments. Let's do that for instance. And that's selected. So let's say you want this here. Oh, let's go like this. You select this and you want it to have an indent. Let's bevel. Oh my good lord. Bevel it out. Extrude the inner a little bit. And then let's extrude it inwards. That'll create it. It's like a depth thing, so you could add wires or whatever you want in there. It takes a while. It's all custom work. That's why I like doing it. It's just fancy fun stuff. You go freehand spline for the wire. This is what I like to do for doing wires. I use my freehand. You can do whatever shape you want. You can use arcs or whatever if you want. You can use any of these. And then I use a plugin called Reaper X. So you drag your spline into the Reaper X, and that'll make it its 3D version. The coils is the amount of times it coils around itself, as you can see. I use 10 usually. Strands is how much strands you have, literally. Let's keep that 1. Radius is how big it is. Let's go 4. Distance is how far away from A to B it is, going horizontally per se. So let's just go like 5 to keep it more wiry. Again, you want to go back to the movement tool just in case you don't want to screw anything up. And you drag it into the model, for instance. Boom. Okay, so that's as simple as it gets. You can work off of that. Hopefully this works for you guys. I hope this does help. So there you go. Leave a love and a hug on my YouTube page if you want. I don't care. It's up to you guys. If you want to see more, I can always do more. And that's about it. So I will catch you guys later. and take care, guys. Bye.